Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Chris Hanna Show. As you know, as we've been talking through with business owners and entrepreneurs, we're here to hear their story, to understand their journey, the challenges that they've gone through, the lessons that they've learned, sometimes the hard way. The ride that you're on as an entrepreneur and as a business owner can be one full of twists and turns. And there can be ups and there could be downs, but it is something that is unique to every single person. And so for this week, I'm really excited to have Stephen Morris joining us. And he's got actually a few things. He's got a podcast called the Renowned Leadership Podcast, which we'll get him to speak about. And he also is doing leadership coaching on his own as well. So I'm going to throw the baton to you, Stephen. Let you introduce yourself to the audience, explain more about who you are, what you do. I think that'd be great for everyone to kind of know more about you.
Absolutely, Chris. And thank you so much for having me on your show, dude. I am crazy excited, man. Great opportunity and big fan of you and your work as well. So about me, man, not much to tell really. I joined the Army when I was 18 in August 2001. And then a couple of weeks later, the World Trade Center thing happened and pretty much started deploying. And nonstop, dude. Like just deployment after deployment, and I did that for 16 years in the Army. And got out of the Army, joined the corporate world, and learned real quick that the corporate world is not for me at all. I did not enjoy it. And so when I started trying to analyze why, because that's me, man. I'm really strategic in the way I do things and how I operate. And so in order to be strategic, you have to understand you're a poker player. You know, strategy is everything. And in order to have a good, solid strategy, you have to understand the people you're playing against and the other components of the game that you're playing and everything. So I started trying to understand why I was struggling so much in the corporate world and why I hated it so much. And I learned two things. One, I have been extraordinarily blessed in my life to have the most amazing examples of leadership and mentorship throughout my entire professional career in the military and in the corporate world. Um, and then I also learned that I'm a unicorn, man. That is not the case for most people, and that upset me, man, because first of all, I believe everybody is a leader in their own right. Leadership doesn't require a title or a position or a certain pay grade or anything like that. But everyone should be able to lead to their best ability and should have the desire to do so. So, I mean, once I figured that out, I didn't necessarily hate the work I was doing or the company I was doing it for. I hated the lack of leadership that was around me. And so I went to the people I worked for and asked them if I could develop a leadership training program. They said, yeah. So I did. And it turned out great. They loved it and they still use it today. And then I'm like, if I can do it for them, I can do it for everybody else. So that's how Renowned Leadership got born. I decided I'll cast my stone in the water and make as many ripples as I can.
Wow. What a journey that you've kind of been on. Like I want to touch on a number of different aspects of it here. Like as you were going through it, I was making so many different notes because there's a lot to kind of unpack here. Like I definitely empathize with you in terms of the corporate world not being for you. I think that is remarkable. Like when you say that, and I believe that as well. Like what was it? Like, again, getting as comfortable as you are with saying what you feel like what was it about the corporate world that just didn't resonate? Is it because of the like was there a particular situation that kind of made you think like this is just it's not me?
Well, no, it wasn't a specific situation. I would say it was more of, um, you know, one of the big jobs for a leader is to inspire, right? Um, I hate the word motivate. I don't like motivation. I don't believe leaders are or their job is to motivate because to me, motivation is false. It's a lie. So I like inspire. That's the word I use. When I'm inspired to do something, I want to do it down to my very core. And typically, when I get inspired, like take for example, you, Chris, in your podcasting, you've been podcasting for quite a while, and think about when you got inspired to do it. right? Nothing in the world could have broke that inspiration, broke that will for you to podcast. It was hard. I do it myself. I know
Yeah.
how hard it is to get into, and it can be very freaking frustrating at times. And so, but that inspiration is what drove you through all the hardship. But motivation, however, like motivation can go away. And oftentimes motivation does go away.
No, it
And
does. Absolutely.
then you have to be re-motivated. So rather than motivate people, I want to inspire people. And I don't see leaders do that today. The way I see leaders operate is bare minimum, bare bones leadership, which isn't leadership at all. It's simply management. It is the corporate, I'm going to check the block. I'm going to stand at the door at the end of the day and shake everyone's hand and tell everyone how great of a job they did, even though half of them showed up late, the other half of them were on their phone 30% of the time, and the other half of them went to break 20 minutes early,
Well, let me stop
right?
you right there because I have a question on that. Because, like, why do you think that is the case with a lot of leaders right now and in that world, where it's just
Well,
it's kind of ineffective? Like, what's the root cause?
well, lack of training.
Yeah.
100% lack of training, because companies have gone, large corporations especially, have gone the route of, um, we got to fill these leadership roles now, rather than having some sort of like evergreen leadership training and development system that starts training leaders the second they come in the door.
Right.
Right. So whenever I'm going to use Amazon as an example. And Amazon, I do not know for a fact that this is what happened with Amazon. It's just a company I know went from nothing to huge over almost overnight, seemingly. And so I'm going to use them as an example. So Amazon's been around since like 1996, I want to say 1995, or early to mid 90s.
Mid
Yeah,
90s. Yeah.
yeah. Amazon's been around, and it didn't get big until what, late 2010s, or mid 2010s. So, you know, when Amazon went from just a no-name book company to literally your grocery store, your mall, your clothing store, your tire shop, everything overnight, all of a sudden they were having to open up warehouses and open up distributors and open up shipping and all these different industries, all super fast. And so they're like, okay, we need a we need a VP to run this distribution center. We need a VP to run this distribution center, as they literally scattered the world to meet their demand. The problem is when you promote like that and hire like that, you're not really vetting to the best of your ability your leadership. So then you get toxic leadership, and that's 100% how you get toxic leadership. And that's how you get lack of training. And then from there, it just bleeds down into your employees, and you get employees that really don't care.
So in this example, like it's kind of like they've made a lot of compromises maybe along the way because they're trying to hire so fast that they're
Mhm.
missing that critical step of, hey, how do we find the right leader, but also how do we train the right leader? If you are promoting from within, how do you set that person up for success as well? It sounds like too.
Correct. And when you have to do that, and I'm not saying Amazon's a bad company for doing that. They had to do something. They were just growing too fast. But at the same time, I think with a little foresight of, hey, this, we could become huge overnight. Let's have a plan in place. Like I said, I'm a strategist. I love to have plans for pretty much everything that can go on. And if
Does
I
that
can
come from
think
the
of it,
army days from you?
dude, yeah, I love strategy, man.
That's got to come from that. Yeah.
Anytime I could get, a company commander or battalion commander to take me up on a war game, I loved strategy and war gaming and all that stuff. And I'm pretty good at it. So
Well, that was one thing I was curious about is like how much do you think the army influenced kind of what you're doing now and like your approach to, leading, building out training for leadership? How much has the army influenced that?
100%, 110%. Um, like I said, I was blessed to have some of the most amazing leaders you could ever ask for when I was in the army. Um, from the bottom all the way to when I got out, when I was a leader myself. And they taught me, not only did they teach me how to lead, they taught me the importance of genuine leadership, not just, I can't remember what John Maxwell calls it. It's in his tiers of leadership, but early on in a young soldier's career, when he gets his first leadership position, he's leading off of his authority, off his position.
Which is a lot of people do in a lot of industries. Yep.
100%. And that's how you start. There's nothing wrong. If that's where you're at, there's nothing wrong with it, but you shouldn't desire to stay there. You should want people to follow you because they want to follow you, because you inspire them to
Right.
greatness. And that's what I got taught. And I've made a ton of mistakes. Don't sit here and think like I'm some, guru of leadership, because I'm not. I've learned because I've screwed up so many times.
Right.
And I sit here and I reflect and I journal and I go back and read my journals of just all the times that I've completely dropped the ball and effed up the whole situation.
Mhm.
Sorry, I hope I can say that.
Yeah, yeah. You can say whatever.
But
It's all good.
good. But so I mean, it's 100% the Army influenced me. The Army manual for leadership is FM 7-1, Field Manual 7-1, and from, I want to say, I was probably in the Army for about a year and a half when my platoon sergeant handed all of us lower enlisted soldiers that manual, and he made us memorize it. And then after we memorized or started to memorize it, he started teaching us from it, not taking the words and actually putting them into applicable situations to where we could learn and become leaders ourselves. And that taught me the most valuable leadership lesson of all time, and that is the leader's primary job isn't to inspire, it's not even to lead, it's to train and teach a bunch of mini yous. And once you understand that and you start approaching every situation as, I have to teach all these people under my charge how to do what I do, then to me, it almost makes leadership that much easier. Because, a lot of times when I talk to managers, they'll be like, yeah, I could delegate these things, but then they'll think I'm lazy, and then I feel lazy or I feel guilty. And it's like, nah, man, like, you're teaching, that's training,
Right.
right? You're teaching them to be and when you approach it that way, you don't have that guilt. Yes, I could go do that myself, but I need to teach person X how to do this. So how do you learn? You go do. So go do. And I'm going to sit here and guide you.
That's a great segue kind of into my next question that I have here, in the sense that you developed a leadership training program when you're in corporate. You've now kind of taken this and you're now running with it with your own clients. What's kind of some core elements of the program that you really focus on as you're talking leadership training? Because it's a broad area. Like, you can go in a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
directions. So like, how would you describe what you've built, and then like how the program that you have now is kind of evolves?
So I don't want to give it all away
Of
because,
course.
nah, I'm kidding. I give away all the knowledge I have. Um, but obviously the number one thing is communication, and again, communication.
Right.
Um, and then at the same time, not to over communicate, right? Because there are things, especially in the corporate world, as leaders, there are things we understand that our subordinates do not. And it's not for a lack of knowledge, it's just not part of their job description to understand how this portion of the company works.
Right.
And so when you start trying to go into a long diatribe of, we're doing this because blah, 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 this side over here is doing, and then you just lose your people, you confuse them. So, you have to literally understand, or you have to literally communicate everything, but understand still how to communicate it and what not to communicate. If that makes sense. I
Oh,
know it's
totally makes sense.
contradictory,
Like, all
but
problems that happen in business are communication problems. Same thing happens in life,
100%,
but it's all communication.
100%. And when we understand that, I was coaching this one guy one time, and he was talking about this employee, and he had never had to fire somebody, and he was about to fire this employee, and he was real tore up about it, which you should be. I mean, that's, I'll never forget the first time I had to fire somebody. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's a
And
tough, terrible decision, but it's
yeah,
really hard.
yeah. And so, I was trying to coach him through the process, but as we were going through it, I realized it's like, man, like when you describe this employee, I'm not hearing the person that you're wanting to fire. And, he was like, what do you mean? Is like, when you describe this employee to me, when you're telling me about this employee, like they're a superstar, they're your go-to person. They're your number two. Like you rely on this person a lot. He's like, yeah, I used to. And then, it just seemed like overnight everything changed. And it's like, what kind of personal relationship do you have with this person? He's like, well, I don't really have a personal relationship with them. I have a professional relationship with them. It's like, yo, what's the difference? He's like, well, we have a strict fraternization policy in our company. I can't be friends with my subordinates. Like I didn't say go be your best friend. I said have a personal relationship. Look, to all you leaders out there is not a single problem in the world knowing your employees' birthdays, knowing their anniversaries, knowing their husbands or wives' names, knowing their kids' birthdays, names, their dogs, cats, their sick parents. Like there's no problem knowing any of this information. You should strive to know this information. And I can't tell you how valuable. And just a good example, one of the most valuable things I learned to do was uh, one of my team members has an anniversary. I go buy her and her husband a little $20 gift card to Starbucks, and I go get a card and I write a nice little handwritten note. Hey, congratulations on your seventh wedding anniversary. So proud of you. You're halfway there. You've almost made it further than most people do in marriage. So good job. Keep up the good work. Proud of you. Blah blah blah. Love, X family. And throw the card in there or the gift card in there, hand her the handwritten card. Dude, that made she started crying. She was so touched that I cared so much that I took literally 10 minutes out of my day to write just a stupid note on a card, go buy a gift card at a freaking gas station and put it like seriously, like what was the effort on my part? But it meant so much to her.
Because you appreciate them, and I think that
Absolutely.
that's what matters. So you're coaching this guy through, you're asking what kind of relationship he has. He doesn't have one.
Absolutely. And so once I finally convinced him, like, hey man, you got to go develop a personal, or you should have developed a personal relationship with this person, because this person, their actions now are not conducive to the actions of the past 5 years that this team member has worked with you. So obviously something changed. Did you not even think of that? He was like, no, not really. Like, just because you don't have a good personal relationship with her. So go to her, start talking to her, and start trying to dig into her life and figure out what's going on. She probably has something crazy going on in her life that doesn't require you firing her. It requires you helping her find a solution.
Yeah.
And once you find that solution, you're going to create a team member that will almost literally die for you because you've shown her so much value. She wants to give you that value back. And so fast forward a couple of weeks, we meet again. He's like, dude, you're totally right. Her mom got diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. And she's been trying to take care of her mom and work at the same time. Yeah. And I was like, dude, like what's the solution? And so him and the company they worked for, they got together and they came up with a package for this woman. They didn't fire her, they just helped her get through the process. Her mom ended up passing away, unfortunately, and help guide her through the grieving period. I think they even paid for a therapy for a couple of weeks, for a couple of sessions to help her get through the grief. And then they brought her back, and she was her superstar employee number 2 self. Like she got back to who she was supposed to be the whole time. And the whole problem was he just didn't know. He didn't know to ask.
Well, I think that reinforces a couple of things that are really important for anybody listening to this who's either leading a team, leading a business, maybe has a desire to do so in the future, is that you have to communicate with your people. You have to talk with them. Like, don't underestimate the importance of one-on-ones. The other
Mhm.
thing that's important that you highlighted, Stephen, that I think is really worth noting is that if you think that you need to fire someone, you have to let them go. Ask yourself, have you done everything to maybe avoid that? And also understand maybe what is the root cause of, why someone's performance has slipped. Not enough people are definitely doing that. I'm a big believer through my career, whether it's leaders reporting to me who say, oh, we need to fire someone, or me thinking that I need to let someone go. I point the finger at myself first. I'm like, have I done everything? And is there anything that I could have done differently to avoid maybe this outcome?
So it's funny you bring that up because that was the lesson I pushed back so hard against in the army. You see in the army, and anyone listening to this that's been in the army, they'll be like, yeah, I totally hated that. Um, so in the army, say, you're a sergeant and you have five soldiers underneath you that you're responsible for, and one of those soldiers goes out and gets a DUI. Not only will that soldier be paying consequences, but you as his leader will be paying consequences. And I always thought that was such crap because like I can't control him. Like I can't yeah, I can control him when he's in front of me.
Sure.
But when he goes off to do his own thing, am I supposed to stalk them? Am I supposed to literally handhold them 24/7, 365? No, that's crap. I should not be
Right.
standing on the carpet because this idiot went and got in trouble.
Can you,
And
and sorry,
one
sorry,
day
pause for a second. Can you give me a quick example? Like, what do you mean by like a kind of like a punishment that the leader would kind of get? Like that you, maybe if you could, if you're able to talk about.
it can vary. It can be anything from just getting yelled at to actual legal action, depending on the offense, how much it's happened. There are, depending on what happened, it could be some very severe. So say a soldier loses a rifle
Right.
as a that's a big deal, right?
Yeah, of
We don't
course.
want military grade assault weapons, you know, out there. So say a soldier loses a rifle, um, his leader, he could possibly go to jail. If they
Wow.
find out, that it was, due to the leader's negligence or lack of attention to detail, as they would say, then he could see jail time. Could, I've never seen it actually happen,
But as a
but
leader, you're really accountable for your people then
hundred
in
percent,
that scenario. Yeah.
100%. And so, like I said, it just varies. DUI, something like that, you're probably just going to get yelled at. Maybe you might lose some time. One of the Army's favorite things to do is take away your time and put you on what they call extra duty. So you pretty much work from 5 in the morning till midnight and do that for X amount of days.
Right.
So I mean that in most cases that's what I've seen happen. In my personal experience, I've only ever got yelled at. But it's I always thought it was such crap though, because how can I control them whenever we're off duty, right? But then one day I was arguing, something had happened with one of my soldiers, and I had to go see Sergeant Major, and Sergeant Major is just laying into me. And I'm like, Sergeant Major, look, like, I don't know what you expect from me. He wasn't in the same state as me. And Sergeant Major is like, look, if you would lead him better, he would not have gotten in trouble. And while I don't think that is true today, I do not agree with that. Like, that's not true. He was going to get in trouble. But at the same time, it made me realize, like, oh, wait, I am accountable, right? I'm not just accountable when they're in front of me. I'm accountable regardless because I need to be leading them and teaching them to lead themselves. So in order to be able to lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. If you can't lead yourself, then you can't lead others, yada, yada, yada. Then, I did fail him. So, in the corporate world, the same thing applies. You are accountable for your people. You
Right.
have to know what's going on and you have to be leading to the best of your capability at all times. There's no room for error. Of course, you're going to make errors, but there's no room for error. Like you have to get it right.
Well, and I almost equate it to like a sports analogy as well, in the sense that sports teams not performing well, maybe some players aren't doing what they should do. the coach also usually is the one who takes the first fall or takes responsibility for some of it, or the GM on a sports team, right? Because you're accountable for instilling the systems, the right type of inspiration, the right communication, telling them, how they should operate and how it is to be part of the team. So it's all integrated together. And while each person has to be responsible for their own actions, there's also other people that do play a role in what they do or what they don't do or what they say.
100%. Absolutely. And that, man, I hated that lesson.
Yeah.
And I still don't like it. But it is true, as leaders, we are responsible for, like you said, making sure the right systems are taught. And it goes back to what I started this podcast off with, of inspiration. If you're leading to the best of your capability, then you're inspiring your people. You're going to inspire them to, one, lead themselves correctly, and you're going to inspire them to want to do. They're not going to want to make you look bad. They're not going to want to make the organization look bad, because they understand the action or the consequences of their actions.
Yeah. Now, when you go back to like the leadership training that you're doing, is it one-on-one, or do you do group training, or like how is that like kind of structured that what you do?
I can do both. I prefer one-to-one training. Um, well, let me back up. Actually, what I prefer are building systems and helping companies implement those systems. Um, that's where I really thrive and just enjoy what I do. But when it comes to like coaching and stuff, I prefer to coach one-on-one.
Yeah.
Again, it's easier to build that personal relationship with someone and really dig into their head. Group coaching definitely has its value, as in, everyone can learn from each other. Everyone has different ideas. Actually saw an amazing post on LinkedIn today. A guy named Brian Montez talking about how we all talk about culture fit when we're hiring, right? We got to make sure
Right.
it's a culture fit. He's like, how about a new term, culture add, right? How about we start adding to our culture to bring in different ideas and perspectives? I'm like, I've never really thought of that. That's interesting. Good
Yeah.
concept there. So I mean, the group, and then so I equate group coaching kind of to that. You're adding in different ideas, different brains, different think. So I do both, but I much prefer one-on-one coaching and really getting into someone's head.
One thing that I think about when I hear about like one-on-one leadership coaching, and I'd love to kind of get your take on this, in that sometimes leaders aren't self-aware enough to know that they might need coaching or support, right? You kind of, if some people who are like just listening to this in the audio, they're not going to see you smirking right now as I said that, but like I think it's a reality. A lot of people don't know that they need the support, or they're resistant to it, or maybe you're pitching to like a business owner or some other like senior leaders to come in and do work for them, and they just don't think that there's a problem with their leadership. How do you overcome that with the type of work that you're doing? Because I think a lot of people don't
Um,
think that they have a challenge or an issue there, maybe.
because I don't approach it from the aspect of you have a problem. I approach it from the aspect of you could be better. You could be much, much better. Um, I know you've done a little bit of, or I know you've done coaching yourself. And so a lot of times whenever you have a client come to you that first couple of sessions, they're like, this is my problem. And you're like, okay. And then after a couple of sessions of talking to them, you're like, so is this still your problem? We're like, no, it's this. It's never what they think it is.
Sure.
So, I don't even try to just like, hey, this is your problem. I can help you fix it. It's, you're great. You're killing it. But like, do you want to be like a machine gun that kind of just sprays and prays, or do you want to be that sniper that really just one shot, boom, it's dead? Like, let's knock it out of the park.
I wish I could get away
And
with those analogies. You got the background that you can back that stuff up. I can't drop that kind of stuff. I throw poker terms. You can throw in the actual weapons and stuff, and that works for you, bro. I love that.
hey man, I don't count poker short, dude. Since we talked last, now I actually have a question for you. Since we talked last, you inspired me a little bit. Like, I want to learn about poker because I always thought poker was just a game of chance, yada yada yada. But after talking to you, and really hearing about the strategy that goes into poker, I'm like, us just talking, like I'm a big strategist. I'm like,
Right.
man, I feel like I could learn a lot from poker and I'd maybe be good at it.
Yep.
So I've started learning about poker, playing a little bit online, but I watched it. It wasn't like a big World Series of Poker tournament, but I think it was sponsored by a World Series of Poker. I don't know how all that works, but
Yeah.
it was just a tournament that was on TV.
Yeah.
Man, some of the people on there, what is it a show? Do people dress and act so douchey for show? Or is it like part of the strategy? Because I could see both.
It is both. I had somebody ask me this yesterday as well. I was at a networking event and I introduced myself to people and I talked about poker, which of course gets a lot of people around you wanting to hear
Right, right.
stories. And I got asked that exact same question. And I said, it is both because you have people who will just be the character and just
Mhm.
because they dress up or whatever. And then some people are strategic. Like they're just doing it because it's either to throw somebody else off, maybe get under their skin, annoy them a little bit. Like there's a whole psychology of around poker, right? And the strategy, and then the math and the logic and reading people and
Right, right.
situations. It's such a game where it's like it's not luck. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. It's not luck. It's not all about the
Mhm.
cards because you're playing the person, you're playing the situation. You'd be great at it because I think the strategy side of you would
Right.
actually just thrive. Like that's why I love it so much is because I really use my brain quite a bit.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm thinking
Yeah.
ahead. Like I'm laying traps to try and catch people later hands. Like I'm gonna show my cards on this where I bluffed, and then they're like, "Oh, this guy's bluffing a lot." And then next time I play a hand against them, I have the perfect cards. I got the
Right,
aces
right,
or
right.
whatever.
Right. And that's kind of what I thought. Because there are a couple of characters, man, and like they're just total tools, and they were acting like tools. They were dressed like tools. This one dude had these gigantic sunglasses, like, and it's just like, what are you doing? You look so stupid. Did someone not tell you you're going to be on TV and advise you to not look stupid?
But
And then
some
I
people
got to
like to play a
thinking about it.
character.
Well, yeah, but I
There's
got
a
to thinking
personal
about it.
brand around some of that stuff too.
It's like if I was sitting across from that person playing cards, I would totally be distracted just by how douchey you are. And
But
I would
that's what they
really, it
want.
would exactly. And so that's what got me to thinking. I was like, I wonder if it's strategy, like if they're doing it on purpose just to try to distract the other players
Yeah,
and give them an advantage. Because I'm sure at that point, especially when there's so much money on the line, you're looking for every advantage you can
of course.
to give you the upper hand to help you win. So I was like,
100%.
man. And then I got to thinking, like, well, I'm going to be on a podcast with Chris. So I'm just going to ask him whenever I see him.
Yeah, all good, man. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of strategy with it, and there's just some people are just crazy too, and they'll
Yeah,
wear
yeah.
whatever, right? Um, when I go back to looking at your career and like your business, I'm curious if you can share with the audience kind of some of what the entrepreneurial journey's been like, because you go from obviously being in the army, you go to the corporate world, and then creating a business. What's that aspect of it? Not necessarily just leadership, but like being an entrepreneur. How's that ride been?
Mm-hmm.
Ups and downs, all
Oh
ups. What
man,
is it?
true. I wish it was all ups, bro. um, man. So first of all, man, you'll get me on a rant here. So I want every like, yeah, I was in the army, and I've done some crazy, crazy things in the army, and I'm still alive to tell about them. But I'm one of the most fearful people you'll ever meet in your life. I'm scared of bugs, snakes, spiders, my own shadow sometimes. Like I jump at loud noises. Like people are like, "Oh yeah, PTSD." I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what it is, PTSD." No, it's just loud noises scare the crap out of me, man. Always have, always will.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a very fearful person, and I had to learn to control it, and I had to learn how to get over it. Being an entrepreneur is the scariest freaking thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
And it's hard, but at the same time, I'll never go back.
Yeah.
Like I'll never, like the worst day being an entrepreneur is not even comparable to the best day of working for someone else. Even in the army, and I love the army,
Yeah.
but the worst day of being an entrepreneur is 10 times better than my best day in the army ever was. So I would encourage everybody, just get over your fear, find something you're passionate about, something you love, find something that you know that other people don't know. Eh, Find, something you can just do and build a brand around it and just make money, even if it's just an extra $1,000 a month. Who wouldn't turn down an extra $1,000 a month?
Yeah.
I encourage everyone to do it, man. And especially here in the States, I don't know how it works in Canada, but here in the States, you get a lot of big tax breaks just for owning an LLC,
Yeah.
limited liability company. So there's that, man, the tax breaks from it. So just it's been a crazy ride, dude. It's been up, it's been down. I was telling you when we got on the call that to start recording, the past couple of days, I just had to go sleep because I've been working myself to death. Um,
And is
and
that
I
the worst
feel
part of being an entrepreneur and trying to build your own business is the fact that like initially definitely it's all on you and or is there another aspect that's like makes it kind of like some of those rough days?
No, I'm sure some people would say that, yes, because there is a lot of that. But for me, it's the daunting fear of failure. Um, I always feel like I need to be working and pushing myself as hard as I can because if I don't, I'm going to fail, and I don't want to face people failing.
Right.
And my wife has bought into this. My family's bought into this. My parents have bought into this.
You
Her
don't want to let
parents
them
have bought
down.
into it. Like, yeah, I do not want to fail. And so that's the hardest part for me is just the constant worry because there's no guarantee. And that's the thing. But what I can tell you is I could lose everything tomorrow, everything I've built, everything I've worked for. I can lose it tomorrow. I would take 24 hours to grieve over my loss. And then the next day, I would be building something else.
You've probably got to this point where it's like you're never going to work for someone else again.
I can't.
You can't do it anymore, right?
I can't. I don't think I could have someone tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I don't think. Like,
I'm
I
with you,
just don't
brother.
think
I'm,
it could
I'm
happen.
totally with you, man. I get it.
I mean, yes, technically, I work for my clients.
Yeah, of
That
course. Yeah, yeah.
technically, but at the same time, they do not control me. They do not control what I do, my time, my schedule. I control everything. I just provide them the service that they request and
Right.
pay me for it. But yeah, I'm with you, man. There's nothing. I'm not working for anyone ever again.
Yeah. What's the best part of being an entrepreneur?
The best part, I decide, right? So my birthday was the 27th, which was Monday, I think. Yeah, Monday. And so I had a lot of work I needed to do. I had quite a few meetings I just couldn't get out of. Um, so it's like, you know what? I record podcasts on my podcast on Saturdays. And so it's like, I'm just going to reschedule all these and I can make that decision and I don't have to answer to anyone. I just email my podcast guest, whoever it was, like, hey, have to reschedule. Here's my calendar, pick a new day.
Yeah.
That was it. And they all picked a new day. They did, and then you ask me why, give me grief, nothing.
Right.
That's the best part, man. You're just in complete control of your time. You're in complete control of you. And that's bad too, because when you screw it up, it's all on you. You can't blame anyone else,
Totally.
which I've screwed up a lot, man. Let me tell you about my first website. I built it in 3 days and I didn't entirely understand copyright law. And Google within 24 hours told me no, fix it or my IP was going to be banned. And so it's like, ooh, learned a hard lesson there. And so I had to scramble, man. That was like 48 hours of crazy,
Right.
um, getting it all fixed. But I learned, and I think that's what people are so scared of when it comes to being an entrepreneur is like, I don't know. I don't know everything I need to know. You know what? I don't either.
You're
And
figuring
in
a lot
fact,
as you go, right?
oh, dude, 100%. Google has become my best friend. Thank God they don't charge for it by search,
Right.
because if they did, I would be broke quick. But and more importantly, man, I found other entrepreneurs like you, or my coaches that I've hired that I can lean on and be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Is this stupid?
Right.
You know? Yeah, that's really stupid. Don't do that. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Um, but finding that support, but ultimately you are figuring out a lot on your own, and that's okay. You'll figure it out. It's just that I think people are scared of the having to figure it out. We want to know, like we want to know everything.
People like
But
the
as
idea
an
of being
entrepreneur,
safe and there's that certainty. And some people overanalyze situations too, thinking that they need to know everything. But you can learn so much when you're on this journey, whether you're just trying to build a side hustle or you're trying to build a full-fledged business. The amount of just leveling up that you do when you invest in yourself and you put in the time, it's unreal. Like I don't even recognize the person I was a year ago, 5 years ago. I can't remember 10 years ago, Chris, who he was, because
yeah,
every step of the journey, I just keep evolving into this next person. Like it is, I can't remember a year ago at this point.
yeah, 100%, and it's crazy, and I think ultimately okay, so for me it's the understanding, and I think if a lot of people start looking at it this way, they'll think about that safety net a little differently. I think you and I talked about it on my podcast actually. Like, is it truly safe to work for that big corporation?
It's not. There's no such thing as loyalty. Look at all in the last number of months. How many companies have announced layoffs, terminations, mass reduction of staff? No such thing as loyalty.
None. None.
I have a video coming out. Maybe by the time this airs, this video will be already out on social media. It's just like a short, reel style video. But I talk about I think that there's truly an entrepreneurial revolution coming. I think more and more people have gotten it now and they've started to understand that loyalty doesn't exist. Companies aren't there for you as much as they used to think that they were, and that there's more access now to build your own business than ever before. You can build a website, you can get a Stripe account, you can throw up a thing on YouTube, you can create content, you can create a podcast.
It's so easy.
Accessibility is not an issue.
Yeah. So easy. It's just figuring it out. And you got things like Google Chat GPT. Man, that what a powerful tool that is,
Yeah, I
man.
love
I've
it. I
been
use it every day.
struggling. Yeah, I've been struggling figuring out a couple of things with my branding, and I just been talking to Chat GPT about it. Just like, hey, I'm having this problem. Okay, tell me more. Okay, blah, and it starts spitting out all these things, and it's like, hold on, like I got, I am human. I got to do it one step at a time. But no,
It's my best
there's so
employee.
many tools. Yeah, 100%. And there are so many tools that you can utilize to help you figure this out and get it started. And something you said made me think, it's funny. There is no loyalty in the corporate world, but where there is loyalty in the entrepreneur friendship world.
Yes.
Because every time I ask another entrepreneur to do something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll help you out with that." I've never been let down, not one single time has another entrepreneur let me down. There might have been hiccups, but it's like, it's life, things happen. But entrepreneurs are more loyal to each other and to themselves than any corporation ever will be. And dude, 100%, man. I
I
love
have
it.
never pieced that together before, but that is so insightful, man, because I look at the people who I know that I can count on. They're all entrepreneurs and like we'll just support each other, whether it's advice on like, hey, here again, here's something
Mm-hmm.
crazy I'm thinking of doing, or how do you do this? Like happy to like answer when they're able to pick up the phone, do stuff together, like a lot of collaboration that happens. Where in the corporate world, collaborating is painful.
Yeah, sucks.
Oh, it's brutal.
I dread it.
Cutthroat.
Yeah,
But
100%.
when you got on a good group of allies around you, like who are fellow business owners, entrepreneurs, hustlers
Mhm.
out there, yeah, they come together.
Yeah, man. I was on a Zoom call the other day with and this guy that he's really techie. No, he knows tech inside and out, and that's part of what his entrepreneur business is all tech stuff. And I've been having trouble. I use DaVinci Resolve for my video editing and my podcast editing, and I've been having trouble with it being grainy, like really grainy.
Mm.
The video, just like white specks all over it, and it's fine before I render it in DaVinci, but then when it comes out, it's just completely horrible.
Right.
And so I asked Sean, I'm like, hey, dude, do you have any idea? And he's like, nah, man. And then like 2 days later, I just get this random email from Sean, like, hey, man, I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about your problem. So I started doing research. This is what I found. And I had like a 4-page email of just all the things to try to fix my problem
Awesome.
because he couldn't sleep because I had a problem
Right.
and he couldn't help me with it. And so like that is, you're 100% right, dude. That is exactly the type of people you find when you start this entrepreneurial journey.
Well, and I think the thing that's important too is like when you're on this entrepreneurial journey, whether you're kind of in it for a while, you're a veteran, or you're brand new to it, don't underestimate the importance of just putting yourself out there and talking to other people about what you do, because you never know who might send you business, who might eventually think about you and say, "Oh, hey, Steven, I hear you're doing this now. And maybe I
Mm-hmm.
want to like partner or collaborate or talk to you about it or send you business." Like, I think that's one thing that also a lot of people need to get kind of over is this idea of talking about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't
Yeah,
just like build it and think they'll come.
putting yourself out there, for me, that was a very hard thing. Especially like I love to write, and so blogging is a big thing I do. And man, the idea of writing something and then putting it out for the entire world to consume and criticize
Right.
was terrifying to me. And so I put my very first blog out, and I'll never forget it, man. I got hit with two grammar Nazis. And let me, I use Grammarly
Yep.
ad nauseam, like a pro, man. And I'm working on getting my master's right now,
Oh, cool.
so my MBA. So I use it for school and college professors. Like that, I very rarely get hit with a grammar hit. Like
Right.
all my papers, right? Grammarly is spot on, but for some reason, I guess, it didn't do a good job on this blog post, man, and I got hit hard, and it crushed me, man. I almost quit, and then it's like, you know what? Screw them. They don't know me.
Right.
I don't care about these keyboard warriors. Like, come
Yeah.
say it to my face, bro. Like,
Yeah.
bet you won't. Right? Like,
I hear you. I've
so
I've been there before. Like when I first started on this journey, like it was I wanted to do a speaking business, and then I'm like, how the hell do I do that, right? And then I had the thing. I'm like, well, I got to start writing some content to get kind of noticed and get published articles or whatever and blog posts. And I was so nervous to hit that first like post it live kind of thing. And yeah, I got hit up with people catching little mistakes here and there, and I use Grammarly too. I'm a big believer in it, but it just sometimes lets you down or
yeah,
misses something that's like, oh, I can't believe that was missed. But like at the end of the day, I've started just to realize I'm like, it doesn't matter what kind of other people are going to put out there. And there's always someone who's negative. You can easily delete other comments and stuff too, but just like don't let it get to you, the haters out there, you
yeah.
know?
And yes, you can delete the hate comments if you want, but honestly, dude, I don't care. Like,
Exactly.
rag on me all you want. I don't even read them anymore. Like, I'll read comments to an extent, just because I want to engage with people that are trying to engage with me.
Right.
But if you're not engaging with me within the first 4 or 5 words, and then I'm just moving on. I
Right.
don't even read the comment, like, because I do not care.
Yeah.
And that may be callous. I don't know. It's just like, don't like me. Fine. You're not the person that's going to pay me. So
Yeah.
your opinion means absolutely nothing to me.
Well, I think that's the
And
important thing to remember is like when you put out content, whether it's something written, or in my case, I do a lot of video, whatever kind of content medium it is, it's designed to do one of two things: attract the people that like it or repel the people that don't like it.
100%. And if it's either way, like I said, the people that like it are the ones that are going to pay your bills.
Right.
The people that don't were never going to be your client anyway, because yeah, okay, these people found a problem with my writing style or my grammar. Okay, whatever. They took the time out of their day to write me a hateful comment because I forgot to put in a comma. Like, these people are never going to give me money.
Right.
So why should I even care about them?
But hey, if they're making a comment on your social media post, that helps boost the algorithm and more people see it.
Right. So they're just helping you in the long run,
At
right?
the end of the day, attention, whether it's good or bad, is actually good.
Right. So, I mean, whatever, dude. And
So you know
like I
what?
said, I don't
Maybe
even,
spell more things or miss commas and punctuation more often, and your post is going to get a boost.
yeah, that's a good idea. I never even thought of that algorithm part. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, this has been such an awesome conversation. Like we could continue to go on and on and on. I think I'll have to have you back for another episode here, man, because this was so fun. Learning about all the different aspects of everything that you're doing. I can talk leadership all day, but I try and keep these at a certain length, these podcasts, right? But this was so great. Stephen, how can people work with you? Like, how can they follow you? Where should they connect with you? How can they listen to the podcast? If someone wants to learn more about you and work with you, where can they track you down?
Yeah, man, 100%. You can just search for Stephen J. Morris on all the socials and you'll find me there. Um, you can also hit me up on my website. It's renowned, RENOWNED, renownedleadership.com. And then you can email me at sjmorris@renownedleadership.com. Hit me up on any of those. I'd be happy to get with you. Right now, I actually have a pretty awesome resource that I'm giving away. And it's just a small little 3-point checklist on how to start leading your remote team
Hmm.
or hybrid team. Because let's face it, remote and hybrid is not going anywhere.
Definitely
That's
not.
the new in. It's the new shiny. It's staying. It may be more hybrid than remote, but either way, you have to learn how to manage and lead the remote side of the house. So you can hop over to renownedleadership.com and just grab that resource, downloadable PDF. And yeah, man. And then also, you want to see what working with me is like? Then the first time we meet is on me. I just want to get to know you. See, I'm not for you, everybody. I'm a pretty intense person. So you got to have a thick skin to work with me, and I'll be the judge of whether or not you do. So
Yep.
we'll meet. We'll see if we can work together. And like I said, it's not. I don't charge anything for that since I'm kind of judging you just as much as you're judging me.
Got to be a fit on both
So
sides, right?
100% because if it's not Chris, they're not going to get the full value of your coaching. That's going to
Exactly.
give them a bad taste for coaching. And I
Yep.
don't want to do that to anybody because I know better than probably anyone how powerful coaching is to people's lives because it's helped me so much. So I do not want to do that under any circumstance, but I can make you one guarantee and one promise, and that is if you are not a fit with me, and we mutually decide, or I just decide, I have a network of amazing coaches that I've worked with personally that I know, I trust, I love, and I know their programs that I can refer you to. I will get you the help you need one way or another.
Wow, that's awesome, man. What give me one final thought for yourself of what people kind of need to think about or do with regards to leadership in today's ever-changing world.
Oh man, put me on the spot.
Yep, did it
One
on
final
purpose.
thought. Yeah, I know because I did it to you.
I know. I've been waiting for this one.
So one final thing, man. Look, your team members. I know, I know it's stressful whenever you have your boss breathing down your neck and your numbers aren't good and everything just seems like it's falling apart. You know, whatever stress you feel, your team members they're probably feeling that stress times 10, right? Because ultimately they're the ones doing the work. Just remember they're human beings. Remember that you need to develop these personal relationships with them and then communicate ad nauseum. And that's how you get like, listen, these tough times aren't over, right? We haven't even hit the peak of the tough times, the layoffs, the economy, the inflation. It's just getting worse. It's going to keep getting worse. We're not even at the top yet. So the way we're going to get through this is just loving on your people, having those solid personal relationships with them, and communicating as much as you can, and just be there for them.
That is awesome, man. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. Such a pleasure. I can't wait to have you back and we can dive deep because there's more areas we can go. This was fantastic. Thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me.
So again, listeners, follow Stephen, renownedleadership.com. He's got his podcast as well. Big takeaway, though, I think that I took from this is that you need to love on your people. You need to communicate with them the right way. And I'll use my language. You need to go all in on them as well. All right, everyone. Till next time, remember, make sure that you're focusing on your people.